Houston. And so hopefully Matt and the crew will be enjoying some pops at the old Cask and Flagon and getting themselves ready for a majestic and wonderful summer. And if you have an opportunity to check out Adirondack Camp's website, go to adirondackcamp.com. You'll see the most beautiful, majestic lake you've ever seen in your life, number one. You'll also see the beauty of this camp, as well as you will see just the kids and just the overall fun that is had in that place. And trust me, one of the things I've always been jealous of is that I was never a camper. I worked there for many years as a staff member, and I had the time of my life there even as a staff member. So, as they say there, the traditions are set, the memories are waiting. So check it out if you can. So now let's talk the NFL draft. Wow. When I watch college football sometimes and when Urban Meyer was coaching the Gators, I used to always say to myself, I would watch how other teams in the SEC would prepare for Florida. And I would look based on how they recruited in the offseason, how they would get different players who who have the ability to cover receivers or are faster or whatever. And like even when USC was dominating college football, you always wanted to see how teams in the Pac-10 responded to their dominance in terms of how they recruited. In the NBA, for example, you look at the NBA right now, and what you see is every team in the NBA trying to emulate the Lakers in some way. Oklahoma City, for example, is basically gotten bigger. They bring in bigger players because they feel that in order to beat the Lakers, you have to have size. The Dallas Mavericks brought in players because they felt that they needed to have size to be able to compete against the Lakers. Now, how does this affect the NFL draft? Well, it affects the NFL draft because in the NFL, the Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl. And you would think that teams around the NFL who are drafting would always try to either A, emulate the champ, or B, figure out a way to beat the champ. And what has happened in this draft so far is that there are two ways you can attack figuring out a way of beating the Green Bay Packers. Way number one, you draft defense. You bring in players who can play defense, who can get to the quarterback, who can sack Aaron Rodgers, who can make his life a nightmare. Or B, you draft offense. And where you draft players and you say to yourself, you know what? The only way we can beat the Green Bay Packers is to shoot it out with them. And so as I look through the draft and I look through what certain teams have done, I think the league believes that the way to beat the Green Bay Packers, the way to beat the New England Patriots, who had the best record in the AFC, is by drafting defensive players. And through the first round of the draft, there were 16 defensive players and 12 players on the defensive line. And so far through the second round, there's already been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players through the first 13 picks have been drafted from the defensive side as well. So that tells me that everyone who feels that they can compete with the Packers, feels that they can't stop them, they have to contain them, which I find very fascinating. And by the way, if you want to call on the show, you can call in at 323-962-1937. In my opinion, Cam Newton should have been the number one pick. He was the best player in college football last year. He is 6'5", 240 pounds. He has an amazing future ahead of him. And I hope that he lives up to his potential. 4 quarterbacks were taken in the first 12 picks. I'm very puzzled that 2 of them went that early. I've always liked Jake Locker. I thought Jake Locker was a tough-minded, good football player. But if you can only complete 54% of your passes against college defenses, that kind of scares me for the NFL. Yes, when he gets out of the pocket, he is accurate. He's tough. He can run. He can take hits. But is he ready for prime time? And for the Tennessee Titans to say, we're going to take him and get rid of Vince Young, that's very interesting to me. The Minnesota Vikings drafting the quarterback they did, Christian Ponder, another tough kid. But his skills don't blow you off the charts. He's a good player. I have nothing against Christian Ponder. But I think that Andy Dalton's a better football player than Christian Ponder. I think Colin Kaepernick is a better football player than Christian Ponder. I guess we're going to find out. Now, what always blows my mind about the draft, too, is that certain teams make picks that defy logic. For the Redskins and the Cardinals not to draft quarterbacks in the first round, knowing that, A, with the Redskins, they have no certainty of what they're going to do with Donovan McNabb. In Arizona, I can't even name Arizona's quarterback right now off the top of my head. And then for them to draft a running back in the second round, how many running backs does Arizona need? I mean, Beanie Wells is one. They got Hightower as the other running back. I mean, you wonder why they're always picking where they pick. The Buffalo Bills. We know Ryan Fitzpatrick is a Harvard grad, and I got no disrespect to the Ivy League. My daughter will be attending an Ivy League college someday. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, is he really the face of the Buffalo Bills? Is he really the quarterback that they think that can lead them back to their glory days? And this one's for my father. Daddy, your Chicago Bears. For the last 4 years, the Bears have needed the same thing. They need a go-to receiver who can keep the ball away from Aaron Rodgers, who can go get the ball. Johnny Knox is a good player, no doubt about it. But are you serious? You don't draft a wide receiver in the first round? That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, the team in that division that had, I think, the story of the night draft is the Detroit Lions. They have Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh on the same defensive line. That, my friends, is frightening. No one in college last year could block Nick Fairley. And no one could block Ndamukong Suh when he was at Nebraska, and no one in the NFL last year blocked Ndamukong Suh. And the fact that they're both 21 years old, they're going to be pushing each other for the next 15 years if they're smart. And, oh my goodness gracious, the Lions, give the Lions 2 years. If Stafford could ever stay healthy, and they could pick up somebody like, say, like a John Kitna, or some other backup quarterback who can just sort of come in and keep the, you know, like an Earl Morrall type. Back in the day, Earl Morrall used to go to all these different teams, and they never missed a beat because Earl Morrall was a professional's professional. The Lions are going to be scary. Can you imagine that? The Detroit Lions are going to be scary. Atlanta gave up way too much for Julio Jones. He's a good player. He's big. He's physical. He's fast. But he drops too many passes. But to give up your fourth round pick and your first round pick for next year, he better be extraordinary. And yes, they do have the deficiencies, throwing the ball down the field, and maybe they think he can be that one. That guy to get it done. Okay. I hope he does, because I like Matt Ryan a lot. I really do. But we're going to find out a lot about him in this coming season, which we'll talk about later on. Other than that, the draft, in my opinion, was pretty anticlimactic, to tell you the truth. I mean, I wanted to see Andy Dalton go in the first round. I see now he's been drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, which means Carson Palmer's days are pretty much done there. I mean, all this guy does is win. All this guy does is compete. All this guy does is the right things. And you can't take that away from people who are winners. Winners will always be winners. I think Mark Ingram being the only running back chosen by the Saints in the first round was a great move for the Saints. Reggie Bush is already posting some strange tweets saying goodbye to New Orleans. Maybe he was saying goodbye as the Lakers beat New Orleans, as they said today on SportsCenter, which I thought was pretty funny. But I find it very strange, you know. They have so many running backs. To pick up another running back doesn't make any sense. I thought the Giants would draft Mark Ingram just because Brandon Jacobs is not the same player, and Bradshaw is about to become a free agent. And yes, we have Ware, but we need one guy every team needs one good guy. And I thought the Giants would take him. I like the Giants pick, by the way. I like the Jets pick, by the way. You know, again, I guess the mantra around the NFC and all the NFC teams is to draft defense to beat the Packers. I'm also pretty fascinated with the fact that a lot of offensive linemen have been drafted in this draft so far, too. I guess a lot of teams are trying to make sure they protect their investments, which is smart. The best news about yesterday is that the first round went pretty fast. Normally it usually takes forever. Well, yesterday it went pretty quick. The SEC had a great night. And they keep telling us that they're the best conference in football. They keep winning the national championship, so I guess they are. Andrew Luck is next year's prized possession, so I guess we'll see. And we'll be back on 89.7 KLAS-FM Class Radio after this.
Car trouble again? Can't seem to find the right place to get your car aligned, tires changed, and proper treatment for your brakes? Looking for that place to ease your mind and give you that smooth ride? Well, that place is Lucy Wheel and Tire Center. Located at 5601 Pico Boulevard, Lucy's Wheel and Tire Center will give you a low price and fast professional service. And if you need body and collision repair, we can do that too. Our job is to get you back on the road to a safe and happy car. Free towing and free estimates. Call us at 323-930-2525 or just stop by. Open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays 8 to 2 p.m. Lucy's Tire and Wheel Center. We'll see you on the road.
89.7 KLAS-FM. My name is Richard Harris, and we're going to talk a little NHL.